Welcome to the Creating Kinder Content series. With me today, I have for you Mark Weisman, all the way from the US, a practicing shaman, one with several advanced degrees, and I'm not going to list all of them, but they are in the description box below. He has developed successful methods of dealing with psychological trauma and enabling coping mechanisms to get back people onto their lives once again. And not only that, but also be able to give them a sense of how to get to find their purpose and then live it to their best, extremely highest best selves. He's constantly doing his inner work. Mark and I resonate on our common belief that if human beings, irrespective of backgrounds, religions, ethnicities, languages, can just begin to look for commonalities, the common good that keep us together, as opposed to focusing on the negatives, all the things that differentiate us and keep us apart, is what is going to make this world a kinder space. Mark, thank you so much for joining us and doing this for us. Can I really please request you to introduce yourself to my beautiful audience on the Creating Kinder Content series in just 3 words that best describe you?
Ooh, keywords. I am a believer of equality, harmony, peace, joy, love, and just finding commonality in lieu of finding differences amongst us humans.
I love that. There were more than 3 words, but I'm going to take the more. Okay. Now, I want to know, firstly, are there any of these words that were given to you when you were younger? Because I want to know the impact that could have had growing up. Or are these words that you have discovered for yourself while you were doing your inner work over the last few years?
I would say the words that I'm using now came much later. I was very destructive in my earlier ages, as I figured out empathic visions and communications. I really struggled with that for a very long time, and so I would say I did not use these types of words when I didn't have this.
The commonality. All of us love good, long, luscious hair. Right. And I really like what you just started off with, saying that it's more important to find the commonality between all of us as humans as opposed to focusing on our differences. Could you expand that for our audiences, please?
Oh, absolutely. You know, there is just common knowledge that you'll find what you look for, what you seek. You know, if you go out into the world and all you're seeking is ways to divide us, ways to separate certain people because of pick a segregation point, they're everywhere. You can find them. But on the same note, if you were to go out and find commonality amongst all of our friends and neighbors and even those people we don't know, when we start searching for those commonalities, we can find those too. And those are more important than the other thing.
I love that. I think that is so important, and it resonates extensively with me because I think it's so important to look for the good in people, because I think all of us have it. And because I think you have been such an expert at, helping people with psychological trauma, and now that you're a shaman, and I'm really excited because you're the first shaman on my show, I want to learn, because I understand that you have a pool of knowledge, which is obviously larger than mine, where I say looking for common good, not just commonality, but common good, can actually help us not be traumatized by anything, right? Because it's a world that is for everyone then. How do you feel
Well,
about that?
well, I I look for the common good. I look for the good in all people, and there is good there. The I would say the resistance against that statement is that many people choose to take an easier path, and that's one of distrust and segregation and superiority. Those types of phrasings come into that.
Yeah, yeah. And what do you say to those people who are picking on the easier path? Because I know that life has funny ways of putting us back onto the path. And what would you sort of share with everybody who is watching this to how what is the best possible way to just do our inner work ourselves and start now because it's always too late?
Well, that's a great question, and and
Yeah.
always the first place we start is ourselves. We have to know us, and being good to us. And as that becomes, particularly as that becomes more habitual, it's then easier for it to be then reflected in all our relationships, not just that reflection or that relationship with us, with ourselves. But we got to start with us. We have to know us. We have to recognize those times that maybe we don't feel like being good.
Yeah.
Those times that I think my wife uses the phrase, "You get up on the wrong side of the bed," and 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 those days we need to then figure out what is not allowing us to experience the good and work on that and get that out of our lives, for us to then reflect that out to other people.
I love that. I love that. And it's such gems that you have for us. Just what is it that is not allowing us to see the good is critical. So, moving into one of my next questions for you, expanding on the same thing, is what is it? What was that first experience that you had with kindness, which I am sure you remember because all of us have that transformative, oh my God, this feels amazing. Like, why is someone so kind to me? And I want everyone to feel this way. I want you to share with our audience one of the first moments that comes to your mind when I asked you that.
I absolutely can, and it happened in 1989, um, in roughly late August of 1989. Um, in my path, as I mentioned before, I had really gone down a very destructive path in my own life, and it had led to a drug overdose, which had left me almost dead in a drain culvert in Tucson, Arizona. And someone found me there in that state, picked me up, dragged me to a trailer that was out in the middle of nowhere, where he and his wife lived, locked me in a bedroom, and detoxed me from heroin almost 34 years ago now. And when we went through, it was about 4 months later when I had just gone completely clean. I had my head back on my shoulders. He gave me $1,100 cash and an old pickup truck and said, "Leave Arizona and never come back." It was
Wow.
almost 5 months to the day of leaving Arizona that I would meet my shield maiden, my wife, who we've now been married 33 years. So that gift, and he never asked for anything in return. He simply gave all that he had, him and his wife, that she would prepare me breakfast every morning once I was sober enough and could think clearly. And they just took care of me, and they knew the path I was on and gave it their all. And so I'm here because they did what they did.
Wow, this is just it's beautiful, and I can't see a bigger random act of kindness that someone could pull off on a stranger because it's just I mean it just goes out to show how many people actually see the good in everyone. So yeah, you attracted that. So kudos for that. And I'm really hoping these people can hear this wherever they are in whichever form. But your experience then, therefore, because you've experienced something just that large yourself, would you reckon that then being kind to other people can also help the well-being and the happiness of the person who's being kind to you? Like, do you think it also helps them?
I think it does, and particularly as I've now gone through my life, exhibiting kindness towards others.
Yeah.
I believe they had that very similar feeling um, as they watched me crawl through the struggles that I had to go through there in their in the bedroom there in their trailer. So there was, I mean, as they watched the success, I'm sure they accomplished a whole lot of that feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
So it does help. It's a two-way street, right? Like, because you said they didn't want anything back in return, but they have manifested for themselves empathy and love in return, and feeling a sense of purpose, right? Like, that's what we're all sent here for. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, and that's exactly right. We actually communicated. I want to say about 5 years ago now. Just a chance contact, and we spoke to each other via the email thing, and it was they were very proud of what what I had accomplished and where I had arrived. They were thrilled with my story, and of course, I expressed the deepest, most profound gratefulness for gifting me my wife, my children, my grandchildren now. All of these things I wouldn't have had they just driven by.
Absolutely. And the impact you've had on the lives of everybody else who is going to go ahead and have even more profound experiences courtesy you. So
Right.
this is beautiful. This is amazing. But Mark, what do you suggest? Because you've said, you need to be able to put yourself out there and recognize what is it that I can do better for myself. And that's one of the first steps of learning and knowing yourself better. But what would you advise is one of the easiest ways, or one of the simplest, most like random acts of kindness that you can do for yourself, or to
Well,
anybody else in the world
I,
around?
I I think it's the easy things. It's the things like, and I know this is more or less old fashioned, if you will, but
Great.
things like opening the door, and when you're in public, it's I hate to say it, but a smile says a lot more than any other facial expression there is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so those smallest of gestures can make a world of difference in someone's day. And I think always keeping cognizant in my mind, as I'm out in public, I'm always cognizant when someone greets me, or they, we run into each other and they're grumpier or whatever. I always, in lieu of saying, "Oh, they're such a bad person," just because they're asking that way or they're behaving that way, my first thought now is something must be upsetting them. So start thinking about putting that shoe on the other foot, so to speak, and start thinking about, maybe they lost their job. Maybe they had a disagreement with their partner. All of these things can really set people in motion, and we are quick to just say, "Oh, it's affecting me. How is it affecting me?" Instead of thinking about how's it affecting them. Where are they? So I think those three kind of main points are the first starts. Um, but again, as I mentioned earlier, we have to get our minds right so that we start looking for good instead of looking for bad. My wife is convinced the news is the most horrible thing ever, because
Absolutely.
all they do is they tell stories and whatnot. And I tell her, well, what was good on the news? Well, this or this or this. Okay, well, start looking for the good. Stop focusing on finding every bad thing and every wrong thing. Instead, change our minds to then say, oh, let me look for the good. What's good about this situation? Um, my my mother used to tell me a story about a little girl, and I can't remember the little girl's name, who was trapped in a big room with horse manure in it. And instead of saying, "Oh my God, my room's full of horse manure," she was thrilled and excited and started digging through this room in search of the pony. And that's the mentality that we need. Is
That is lovely.
stop looking for the badness, the dark, the evil, the wrong. Stop looking for all that stuff and start seeking beauty. Start seeking opportunities to love one another, opportunities to show grace, to show maybe even mercy in some cases.
Yeah.
Show compassion, and those things will then begin this cycle of energy that you're sending out that will begin to change your directions.
I love that. I love how you always bring it back to the point that I need for you to say. It's like we're sort of connected energetically. But I think it's really important for what you said, because in the world that we're growing up in, and especially our generation, I feel like we're so hell-bent on making people intelligent in terms of their intellectual capacities. But through our emotional intelligence, we're constantly trying to suppress each other. And that is a bad energy to put out into the universe, because everybody is like trying to one up each other instead of
Right.
recognizing, feeling, or like you're saying, having mercy or compassion. And I think this is great. It's exactly what I wanted you to say. And thank you for saying it. But that brings me to my next question, which is then, can you please share when, how, what happens when people are actually kind? How do you think kindness can bring together communities, or can, increase our connection with each other and make this world kinder?
I believe, and I believe this in every fiber of my being, I believe that society and communities at large start with kindness. They start with two friends talking and joking and sharing a laugh and sharing that a friendship, and that two friends turns into three, which turns into 10, and so on until you have a community of people. But again, we have to begin to stop looking, again, turn our attention away from pointing out the bad and pointing out what's wrong. Instead, go to your neighbor and find out what's good about them.
Yeah.
What how can we express kindness if we don't give them the chance to come together with a bond of friendship to start with, and then from then we can build these lifelong relationships that transcend all of this other hocus pocus and this division mathematics that people try to put on us. Instead of that stuff, seek commonality.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
I
is
love
the
that.
way to go that.
Yeah, and I think I'm just going to probably add, before we move on to our next session, to expand to what you were saying, when you give someone an opportunity. But I think in the world that we're living in, we need to give people more than just one opportunity, but give each other the kinds of opportunities you'd want to give to yourself, the number of opportunities you'd expect for yourself, because everybody is, human, and everybody is making mistakes. But you cannot dismiss people basis a human error or a flaw, because I mean, turn the mirror around and they're probably dealing with you as well. So, yeah,
Right.
agreed.
Right. Putting that shoe on the other foot will do wonders.
Absolutely. So the shaman has said it. I'm not an expert, but he is. You got to believe what he's saying. And he agrees. Now we're going to move on to our next segment, which is the rapid fire. It's just as quickly as you can answer these, so you can't get to think too much. But starting with an easier question, and then we'll hopefully expand into stuff which is going to get you to think. What is your go-to kindness quote or motto that you live by?
Treat everyone I meet like they are my deity.
Wow. That is quite the bomb.
That's if you think about it, many of us profess and we say, oh, we love the Christians. I love God, Islam. I love Allah. Whoever it is, we love these people, and we say, oh, we love them. But then we look at another creation of theirs, and we cast doubt or negativity.
Yeah.
So
this is amazing. Thank you for saying this out loud. I think we're going to be putting this up on a social media platform, YouTube, and then of course others. And it is so important that people hear this, because I often find people saying, you belong to this religion, so you don't understand this, dismissed, or I don't treat this, and this religion doesn't teach this. And we're actually like breaking our heads, or friendships and relationships, and we're keeping our love away from people basis a stupid something, which is probably not even something we can prove. But the fact that we exist and being able to treat someone with the same amount of love and respect that we would expect for ourselves is, and more actually. So you said deity, so like even more profound love. Noted. I will make note of this. If kindness had a color, what color would it be and why?
I believe that kindness comes in many colors, but primarily I would say white, because it is all inclusive. It includes all the colors. But most importantly, I think kindness is a guiding light to relationships, to friendships, to the ultimate expression of this energy, and that's love.
I love that. So I thought you're probably going to say a rainbow, but you went straight down the prism. So this is great. If kindness was a sound, what sound would you think it would make?
Well, I think we hear the sound of kindness when we're in nature.
I love that.
When we hear the harmony of nature, and we hear the birds call in the distance, or the wolves howl, and we just know that's Mother Earth, and she's talking.
Love that. So it basically all boils down to being our natural state self. So this is extremely important. If kindness was a type of food, what type of a food would it be? Flavors, get into specifics.
I think kindness would be, firstly and foremost, it would be a finger food. And the reason is so that we could hand it out freely.
I like that.
And it could be, I think it would be bland in taste, so that we could draw together and determine other experiences over that same loaf of bread, if you will. So I think in that way, it would be almost like a loaf of bread.
Yeah, that is brilliant. Now, my next question would be, would you rather have the ability to make someone instantly burst into laughter and into a happy space, or would you rather have the superpower to make someone feel loved and cared for?
I think they're one and the same. Laughter is the expression of joy. It is the expression of joy. And one of the things that we find with laughter is that we don't laugh if we're nervous or we're scared or certainly if we're afraid. So I think they're part and parcel. They're married, if you will. Yeah. You can't have one without the other.
If I had a gift hamper to hand out, I would give it to you because you are literally the first person to actually make sense of that question in a way that I had actually like imagined writing it, because I know that you can make someone feel instantly loved and cared for, but if you can also make them laugh, you've basically excelled at loving them. So thank you
Right.
for pointing that out. Now, if you were given the responsibility to have an international day of kindness, what would you A, call it, B, what would you want people to do, and what is the vibe of this day?
Well, I think, as far as the date goes, I think I would set that to every day, because it's a building process.
Yeah.
So we're going to learn and teach as we go. This is how we learn to be friends, and we learn to be lovers, and we learn to be spouses. So it's a growing process. I think, as far as what the vibe is for the day is, again, seeking commonality. Stop with the division stuff.
Yeah.
Find every person, find something that you have in common with them. Whether it be that you're in the same city, whether it be you're in the same state, whether it be in the same whatever, maybe even the same emotional state, whatever it is, find those commonalities, seek them out. And then as far as what I would call that day, I would call that the day of hope.
Love. Yeah. Why?
Because kindness is going to pave the way to a utopia ultimately, right? I mean, if we can get everyone on board with it, the hope is that we will reach this state of utopia.
All of us collectively, and then the universe is happy and loved and kind. Great shaman advice. Now, I'm obviously really conscious of the energy that you have invested in this, and I'm really grateful to you for it. Before I let you go, I do not want to leave you depleted, and so I was wondering if there was anything that you could, ask me, or was there anything that I could do to make your day better?
Well, I mean, as far as my day better, no, I'm really happy. But I mean, ultimately, your listeners and those people that subscribe, definitely seek that energy of commonality. Stop it with the going out of the house and saying I hate people who play soccer, or I hate people who play hockey, or whatever. Get those out of your mind.
Yeah.
One of the things I talk about in throwing a pitch momentarily for a book that I've published, I talk about it a little bit in there, where I say what you seek and you put your heart into seeking, you're going to get.
Yeah.
And so if you are just looking for ways to separate people and push people away, that's exactly what you're going to find.
Yeah.
Conversely, if you're searching for the opposite, that too is what you're going to find.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for this. I hope it's been a great experience, and I can't wait to share this episode with my audience that all believes in creating kind of content. Thank you so much, Mark. This has been
You
a
are
pleasure.
very welcome. You have a blessed day. Love and light to you, my friends.
Thank you.